Hey everyone, thanks for joining here today. Get started in just a sec. Hope you all have been well, given the circumstances. Alrighty. Looks like we got a fair number of people here, about 48 people. So I'll get going. I believe as people kind of join in, I'll admit them, and our team here will admit them as much as possible, as fast as possible. But just want to say thanks and welcome to our very first town hall. What I want to do today is just kind of talk a little bit about our current initiatives, our current progress, our current activities, talk a little bit about our goals and our plans for the future as well. And at the end, basically I'll be talking for about 45 minutes. And at the end, I'll open it up to questions. So if you do have any questions as I talk, feel free to drop them in the chat. And Jason will basically, curate and present them so that we could get them answered. But I'm excited to be here with you all. I'm gonna share my screen so that you guys can take a look at our slides. But I'm super excited to have this platform to kind of talk to you all and really just kind of describe what we've been working on through these really uncertain times, and what continues to be a very uncertain time as the number of cases rise across the nation, but decrease or at least stay at this lower level in New York. So overall, I wanted to host this really because I wanted to keep you all up to date. I've noticed that many of the opportunities for speaking and for being on panels are really directed to our external people that really don't know about who we are, and kind of having them learn about RLC. But I've neglected our dedicated RLC supporters, and I wanted to spend some time with you all, and I really appreciate the time during your lunchtime to join me today. The other reason why I wanted to do this is really because I find it really important to maintain a level of transparency. And that's why all of our financials are publicly up on our About Us page. And that's why we display all of our metrics, good or bad, right? And today I really, I'm excited to kind of share some updates, some exciting milestones, and also some thank yous for, the work that we've been able to do. And obviously it's been a very difficult and rough first half of 2020. But I also wanted to kind of illuminate a little bit of our thoughts on, how we see the second half of the year, and what our initiatives and goals are for the second half. I think, for the general period, obviously there's been a lot of changes to the current environment. And, as everyone knows, the backdrop against COVID, as well as the protests, has really been very different from what we expected 2020 to be. And, I think there have been a lot of different reactions to that. And I think one of the things I guess I wanted to kind of start off with was that these current conditions, and if you kind of walk away from this with nothing else, it really is that the current conditions have really illuminated the fact that food rescue continues to be an integral solution that needs to be implemented across the board. And there has never been a time more urgent than now when food rescue needs to be absolutely everywhere. And so, for me, I kind of wanted to, before I kind of go into the slides and, our updates and our progress, I kind of wanted to address the current events and kind of, what we're looking at, because, personally, it's extremely, depressing, and I'm sure, people have struggled with this as well. But the current conditions really make for a situation that I basically kind of grew up with, right? And growing up, I thought that food was a limited resource, and I thought it was normal actually to have just one meal a day. And I remember how confused and heartbroken I was when I was watching my mom, skip meals so that my brother and I could eat. And currently in this current climate, it's the case for some families who've lost their jobs and their sources of income. And I keep thinking, like, it doesn't have to be this way, right? It doesn't have to be permanent. The current situation, the current circumstances really kind of make the call for our work to be much more widespread and really much louder. And our belief, or really, I hope the belief of many of the people here on our call today, is that one day food rescue will be the universal standard, and all food businesses will donate their excess food instead of throwing it away. And not only as a society will we expect it, but one day this will be the system that we're all familiar with. And I think, with the backdrop of COVID in mind, it really kind of makes the call for this louder, as I mentioned before. But also, even before COVID, we were wasting 40% of the food we produce in this country, right? And statistically and just mathematically, rescuing just 1/3 of that was enough nutrition to eliminate hunger in this country permanently, year after year. And that always has blown my mind. But during the pandemic specifically, I was reading all these articles about, milk just being thrown away, farmers just, milling the food that they grew back into the soil. And I can only imagine how much food was being wasted, and currently is being wasted, especially at a time when people need that food. And if food rescue was the universal standard, if they had an outlet, if they knew about RLC, if they knew about different food rescue organizations, all of this excess food could have gone to those in need instead of being thrown away. And since we started 2013, the good thing is we've really seen a lot of momentum. We've seen more and more partners sign up. We've seen a lot of them donate their excess to start to make this a standard. When we first started, I always tell this story. When we first started, the number one thing that we got, or number one question we got from prospective food donors was, isn't this illegal? And basically, we had to bring the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Act of 1996, the actual federal law language, as well as the state Good Samaritan law language, to our meetings to basically have them see that it wasn't illegal. And one of the good things is now in 2020, 7 years later, we don't ever hardly get that question. And many people now know that it's completely legal, that it is completely fine and good to donate. Sorry, that's my rabbit. Just trying to accept some people back into the room. And I think the good thing is that more and more people know that this is the right thing to do, and now it's a matter of making it possible operationally. And so, over the past few years, it's been, before COVID, it's been incredible, to see that momentum and to see so many partners right before COVID hit. And, we saw a large increase up until that point. And, I think during the COVID, situation, we've seen that it really has allowed us to kind of pivot, right? And I think, one of the major things that we wanted to announce today was that we've hit 5 million pounds of food rescued, despite everything going on right now. And we really attribute that to many different people that I want to kind of mention in a bit. But I'm really excited about this because, with COVID going on, we saw a lot of food donor partners drop off, but we also saw a lot of increase in one-off donations, starting in March, going into April, and now. And this has contributed to the 5 million pounds of food that we've rescued now. And obviously, there's a ton of people that I want to recognize for this accomplishment. And again, during such a crazy time. I'll just mention a few of them here today, just because it would be remiss of me to not mention them. But as I kind of go through this list, it's just crazy to think that when we first started, that we would be rescuing 5 million pounds of food is just crazy. My first kind of thank you goes to our full-time team, Catherine and Justin, working every single day to achieve this mission, as well as our amazing rescuers, Kai, Dana, Russell, Quasi, outside in the cold and heat, doing the actual real work to make the food rescue happen. There's a lot of groups that have joined us during these times and also continued with us during this pandemic. Groups such as Near Cares, Mitchell's Trucking, and the Do Good Auto Coalition have been amazing partners, actually being out in the field rescuing leftover cuisine. So, I think that they're at the end of the day, the number one group of people are our rescuers, and have always been the people doing the actual hard work. Our board of directors and our associate board have also led every single step of the way, with Ashish's and Leah's leadership on the board, and Chris's and Jamie's leadership on the associate board. We even got displayed at Times Square. It was kind of surreal right before COVID hit in December, and it was amazing and very, as I said, surreal to see this right in the middle of Times Square. And I wanted to specifically thank Charlie, Laura, Yunji for their amazing contributions, obviously here pictured, but also for their contributions on the associate board. And of course, we can't do anything that we do without our food donor partners. And they're the start of the entire journey. Our partners like Bread's Bakery, Pret, Three Guys, they're the ones that it all starts with. And actually, later on today, I'm going to share a full list of our food donor partners, along with a special surprise to show our appreciation and our support. And of course, on the flip side, as you can see, is of course our food recipient organizations who make it all happen. And special thanks to Bowery, of course, our very first partner, back even before RLC even started, since like 2009, as well as YWCA, Children of Promise, and Clinton Housing. I'll kind of end with the right side of this slide here. Our branch heads across the nation, leading the efforts in our various cities across the nation, pivoting during these times and helping during COVID have really been amazing. And the stories that we hear from the field are absolutely just really keep me going. And I want to kind of close the kind of recognition piece with this last piece of saying that there's just so many donors, so many supporters, and so many partners that I haven't been able to mention today. I could fill a whole hour just going through the names of the people who really stepped up during these times, as well as before these times, to make this possible. And we're so grateful for so many people who really believe in the mission the same way that I do. And together now we've fed 4 million meals and prevented 900 tons of CO2 equivalent from being emitted. And I think the wonderful part of RLC, and something that I think about quite often, is that there are just so many groups, as you heard just now, there's just so many groups that make up the work that we do, right? And without any of these pieces, what we make happen wouldn't happen. And oftentimes, it's hard sometimes for people to actually, because they're in different pieces of the puzzle that make up this beautiful, masterpiece that makes the 5 million pounds happen, that you don't get to actually hear about the impact of how or what it actually is doing. And so I wanted to actually share a story from the fields that kind of shares the impact of our collective efforts. And this is just from a couple months ago. right in the middle of the peak of the pandemic. And it really exemplifies kind of why we do what we do. This specific story happened because, Pret a Manger, I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, locations had so many locations that had their excess left over, right, because of the lockdown. And instead of throwing it away, when they could have easily done that, because they were turned away by their usual food rescue partner, essentially we were able to partner with a group called the Do Good Auto Coalition, run by the Constellation Agency, that decided to help us use their transportation capacity to help us drive that excess food from Pret to our partner recipients. And overall, I think throughout COVID, and as it continues today, there's just so much fear and uncertainty. And honestly, I'm the most proud of how our RLC community stepped up and ran towards the problem to help rather than running away and hiding. And I think, we expect to continue this way and, continue to be safe and continue to use masks and even face shields, as you see there, to help reduce the spread of COVID, while mitigating the effects of the food insecure problem that has now been happening in a more wide scale way. And as we see this kind of first wave of COVID continuing and also, expanding across the country, we, want to continue to do that and continue to help as much as we can. It's a little hard to read sometimes on a Zoom share. So, I'll just kind of read really quickly. When I knocked on Medina's door yesterday to deliver the box, I was floored at the desperation I saw on Diego's wife's face. She doesn't speak English, but I could tell how grateful she was for the food. And it's kind of surreal, again, like, we do so many pickups a day, we do so many rescues, and many of you all who are rescuers, who are food donor partners, donate the food, and sometimes because of how wrapped up we are in making more of these, stories happen, I'm just, really glad that we can make a difference in people's lives like this, and help when they're at that low point, and really provide a little bit of hope. I did want to take a moment to address COVID-19 a little bit more specifically, and our response to that. This is a bit of a video, but I'll kind of just skip over it for time. But our response overall has been to target the larger size donations that were happening more on a one-off basis after many of our recurring food donor partners were on lockdown. I received many questions from many of you, as well as people hearing about RLC for the first time, about how do we, meet this demand that is, on the food insecurity side, as people have lost their jobs and lost their source of income, and how we deal with that in the face of closures, permanent or temporary, on food donor sides. And so we primarily have been reacting, but also listening to the market and figuring out where that excess food is, because it's out there and there's so much excess food, and we just need to get it to those in need. And so these larger size donations have come from places like Paris Baguette, that had a full warehouse of excess food, where we had pallets and pallets, Kind Snacks, again, pallets, Fritos Lays, also pallets, and places that had all these shipments that were meant for retail, that unfortunately they were left with. Places like Rajbag, where it's a food manufacturing company that usually creates individual trays and meals for airlines, but unfortunately, again, met with decreased demand, left with pallets of amazing high quality food that unfortunately would have been thrown away without our intervention. So, these larger size donations obviously require larger equipment, sometimes the use of trailer trucks. So the cost has increased, but the poundage also has increased as well. There has been a little bit of a logistical issues as well in terms of breaking up those pallets. And so we've added new partnerships to help us break apart those pallets and distribute them as well. Um, and during the height of the COVID kind of spread here in New York City, we also dropped off some food at hospitals to help alleviate some demand as well. In Boston, we've also partnered with the public school network to provide meals for families not receiving from their usual system. And as the city announced their Get Food program, we also rescued the excess from that program, and we continue to do those currently. I think overall, I mean, with these updates, the pandemic has really exposed a huge need for food donations, as I said over and over again, but really limiting our access to the food as well, and having the food system still kind of open in terms of the grocery stores and wholesalers, retailers. We still see a lot of opportunity to access that and tap a market that we've never really kind of delved deeper into in the past. And so we're really looking forward to continuing this response. And overall, COVID has brought a lot of uncertainty, and it's not been fun trying to figure out how to react to the current situation as things keep evolving and changing every day. And I remember in March, like the CDC was saying we don't need masks, and then switching gears midway in the April. And so it's just been a lot of reacting to this current situation. But what is certain is that there's a ton of food going to waste all of a sudden because of the lockdown and the closures. And all of a sudden, a lot of people are also out of work and needing food. And so the clarity of our mission and the need for our mission has never been more urgent. But it also has made it much more difficult in the current situations to achieve our mission and to do that. And so we're glad to have pivoted slightly to kind of accommodate these larger one-off donations as our recurring donors are on lockdown. But going forward, we really are looking forward to really doubling down on our efforts and eliminating the food waste and hunger in our communities. And I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about our strategy going forward. I think, we wanted to be a little creative, and it might be a little forced, but we have our go forward strategy as RLCG, renew, lead, and continuing growth. And currently, as the country continues to reopen, despite the increase in cases, we have, at least in New York, a reduced level and a plateau of the lower number of cases. So we do look forward to welcoming back our food donor partners over the course of the next few months, as well as our HSA, our food recipient partners, as well as our volunteer organizations, if they're able to come back and still feel comfortable doing so. We'll renew these partnerships and recommit to rescuing the excess food so that we can get it to those in need. That's going to be our number one priority, as it's always been, what we've continued to do. But at the same time, it is still uncertain how many partners will come back. And so we plan on being proactive as well. We've been reaching out to food businesses that are still open, such as the grocery stores that I mentioned previously, and even expanding during these times. And our Jersey City branch has been doing an amazing job of actually bringing on new food donor partners, as well as our Dallas branch. And so we really expect these food businesses to really actually lead by example. And I know some of you are on today in terms of, you guys are really showing that it's a win-win-win for everyone, right? And that giving back to the communities that need our help at such a desperate time right now is what we all should be doing, and really like setting that example. And so over the next few months and the next kind of second half of the year, we're also launching a new section of our technology that specifically targets that one-off donation and automating that piece for the first time ever, as we've mostly focused on those recurring donations. And this will really help us continue to accommodate these one-off donations, regardless of size, whether it's a van or one box truck or trailer size, into the future. And finally, against the backdrop of the increasing cases of COVID in cities and states outside of New York now, we do intend to apply the same safety measures for food rescues that we've been applying to New York City in terms of masks, mandating, social distancing. And, I'll talk about this a little later as well in terms of, there's a way to do these rescues where if you want, you can sit in your car, pop up in the trunk, never be within, 6 feet of someone, just drive off and load, load off the same way. But in terms of our strategies, this last piece, ultimately, we are continuing to grow as the demand for our work is increased. We do want to meet that demand as much as possible, and so we continue to focus on the impact measured by the pound, as well as the meals that we rescue and provide, as well as growing in our branches to continue to make that impact across the board. So those are continuing to be our goal. We're shooting to hit 1.5 million pounds of food in 2020. So I hope to be on with you guys at the end of this year. Maybe there'll be a vaccine, maybe not. Announcing our 6 million pounds of food rescued. We also are hearing renewed calls for us to expand to new cities that need our services. And I'll talk a little bit about I'll talk right now about some new team members that we actually added on that we're really excited about. We welcomed a few new team members to help our growth and to continue to meet this demand. And we're excited to announce new additions to our team, including Rebecca on our development team, who's here today, Jason on our marketing side, who will present some questions, and Lauren on our branch strategy, who used to be our Boston branch head. So we're really excited about, continuing to grow and meet the demand that has been left behind by COVID, and really excited about how we can address those concerns. I'm, pretty fired up about the next, few weeks and months, even though it's such an uncertain time, and I think playing it by year, as you heard from my strategy, it's both playing it by year and accepting new returning partners, as well as figuring out how we can continue to be proactive and welcome new food donor partners to our community. But essentially, the number one thing is to volunteer. And I know that it's a very difficult time, and so if people do not feel comfortable, that's obviously the number one priority. Fact of the matter is that we've had much less participation, and we do need more people with particularly vehicles and different equipment that can help accommodate these larger size donations. And so if you do feel comfortable, join us on a rescue by signing up online. We will equip you with masks and equipment on PPE wise, for those purposes. And again, you can really just stay socially distant the entire time if you so choose, and to be the most safe during these times. Secondly, obviously, if that's not a possibility, there are other ways to help. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and as you may have guessed, our work is costing a lot more as we have less volunteers willing to come out, and the increase in the larger size donations needing larger equipment. And so we've had to had many of these larger size donations, paid for by different groups. You can basically support us by donating to help us accommodate these larger sized one-offs, or you can even start a fundraiser. You can join us as an ambassador, help us spread the word, help us get more support. But just an example, many of you might be familiar with the food rescue carts that we use. They're $33 each of them, bought in wholesale and in bulk. And they make a huge difference, obviously, between carrying and then carting the food, right, to where it's needed. Given COVID also, against that backdrop, we also need more of them to kind of reduce and eliminate the spread of COVID between kind of sharing. And honestly, all these things really make a huge difference, and we do need help. So, I think a quick shout out that I wanted to make here is also to Smart Design, helping us design some better carts. We're actually really excited to see the final design, and thank you to those who have been helping us test these. But overall, again, any amount will help us as we move forward in fighting food waste and hunger together. And if you are interested in reaching out, I had a slide on reaching out to us, but you can reach out to us at info@rescuingleftovercuisine.org at any time. Also, there are lots of, this last piece is about food donors, right? And it's where the journey begins, and we need more of them. So if you're interested, you can help us recruit food donor partners. Reach out to us again, info@rescuingleftovercuisine.org, and you can help us make some phone calls, get in contact with decision makers from the safety of your home. And also just kind of help us show that their community and the client base care about this and want to see the excess food go to those in need. Overall, they're going to get enhanced tax deductions, they're going to get to reduce their food disposal fees, and obviously they're going to help their local communities. So the partnership overall is going to be a win-win-win for all the parties involved. And at the end of the day, they can benefit from this. So, I think right now, because of the current situation, it's a very important time for us to support them. And, we can direct our base to help those partners that share our values and to make sure that the ones that come out of this situation are the ones that are donating their excess food and are a part of the community that we've worked so hard to build. So our team has actually created a little game, a little bit of a crossword puzzle to help you all get familiarized with who our partners are overall, and also how to help support them. So we're offering $25 gift cards to the RLC food donor partner of your choice for actually the first 3 people to finish this crossword puzzle and send it to us. I'm going to, at the risk of people not seeing it, I'm going to put it into the chat actually. And the steps are basically to access the crossword on crosswordlabs.com/view/RLC food donor partners, or food donors, sorry. Step 2, you can use our list of the partners that we have on a bit.ly there on a Google Drive. And then once you finish, you can basically, you can print it and take a picture and send it to us, or you can take a screenshot and send it to us at info@rescuingleftovercuisine. Sorry, that's info@rescuingleftovercuisine.org, and sends it over to us. The first 3, again, get a $25 gift card to the food donor partner of your choice. So with that, I want to kind of take a pause here and answer a few questions with 5 more minutes than normal, skipping over a few parts. Sorry again for that interruption midway. But looks like a few questions have rolled in. Jason, do you want to let me know what you think are the ones that I should turn my attention to?
Yeah, so we have a couple of questions from Marie here, which the first one is, you know, are you looking for more donations from bakeries, bagel places? And, you know, she knows a bunch of places that do throw away a lot of food. So what's the best way for people here to help refer potential food donors?
Yeah, we definitely are looking for those partners. Any partners welcome, especially right now because of the increased demand for food. Honestly, everything is on the table. So please do feel free to send them over, even if it's just the names and like pictures of food that you saw, or if even better, if you know the person that works there, even if it's a, you know, just a waiter or waitress, or even better, obviously a manager or owner or chef, that would be ideal. But feel free to send that information to us at info@rescuingleftovercuisine.org. But that would be amazing.
The other question that she had, which was, so she says that some small scale donations are overstaffed. And this is this is a difficult cycle because some volunteers don't feel are needed and are likely to cancel. She's wondering whether there's an opportunity to limit some of the volunteers on some of these pickups. Is that something, you know, that we could look at, or is that something you've been working on, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, that's a great point and great question, especially to decrease the sizes of the crowds and groups that go out on these food rescue runs. We currently do have a feature where the lead rescuer can actually decrease the number of participant slots for each food rescue run. So for your situation, you can either reach out to the lead rescuer who's managing that event, or you can reach out to any of us on our team and we can reduce those pickups slots numbers as well. Again, the contact for us on a general basis, and then it will get sent to the appropriate parties, will be info@rescuingleftovercuisine.org.
And then the last question she had, which was about the website. So, you know, a map of events and the website's a bit hard to navigate. And I know I'm kind of like leading you on this one, but I know there's been some work on the website. So if you want to speak to that, I think people here would be really excited to hear that as well.
Yeah, we're really excited. I mean, during COVID was definitely a time to kind of, you know, look internally as well and think about how we can really enhance the experience for our rescuers as well as our food donor partners and our food recipients. And so one of the things that we are looking forward to releasing soon over the next few weeks is actually a redesign for our website that hopefully will make that process a lot easier. We do want to continue to make you know, the sign-up process extremely smooth and streamlined, as well as give you guys the easiest and least number of clicks to get to where you need to go. So we're really excited about some new changes to that front end of our website coming soon.
Then there's another question, which is from Nancy. Is RLC, I know you brought on a bunch of new people, is RLC, you know, hiring any more people? How do people get involved? What's the best way?
Yeah, right now we actually did bring on quite a number of people, as you have heard. We are continuing to grow and looking to meet this demand, and to do that, we need more people. Currently, we don't have any specific positions that are open. We did have the engagement manager role back in the first quarter of the year when, you know, like back in February, when we, you know, we're looking at many more food donor partners joining every single month, every single week. And unfortunately, that has been put on pause. As we see more of the food donor partners returning, if that is the case, and more food donor partners being onboarded, that obviously will become much more important again. And so we will have that role available. But you can keep up to date with us and essentially, you know, send us your resume at info@rescuingleftovercuisine.org, and we can again keep it on file for when we do kind of reopen those positions.
Cool. Let's see here. There's a couple more questions. Quasi, I'm not entirely sure what your question's about. If you can re-put it in here and I can kind of just like figure it out. No big deal. And then I was just gonna go over to Lisa's question, which is, kind of talks a bit to what you were asking, you were discussing earlier, which is, finding new partners. She's noticing, in a post-COVID world, a lot of firms will no longer have communal food service, etc. Do you expect to see an increase in corporate donors? Is that something that you are actively looking for, etc., etc.?
Yeah, honestly, wherever people are, there will be food, and then wherever food is, there will be excess food. And our belief is that any amount of food is, should be given a second chance to feed someone. And, with COVID as a backdrop, I think it can go both ways. I think there are a lot of catering companies that are saying to businesses and companies and offices that having catered food is actually better, because then your employees won't go out and get exposed as they order lunch or things like that. And so I think the days of the kind of open buffet are probably limited or decreased. But if there are individual meal trays or individual meal packs for offices, we do expect that to continue and continue to have excess. So we do want to continue to take that excess to those in need. So if you do know of any offices as they reopen, as they may consider these options and have access, to reach out to us and to help us get that food to those in need.
We have a question here from Mimi, which is, is there an updated timeline on the app so that stuff like notifications, receipts, instructions can be streamlined?
Definitely. I think so. Mimi is our branch head from Dallas, and one of the biggest kind of pain points for the coordination of many of these pickups is the lack of a mobile application. And so we do have most of the code already kind of written and developed, actually by a pro bono group called Blueprints. So again, shout out to them, as well as Software Mention, helped by the associate board. But we also have, the missing piece of kind of connecting our current web application to this, mobile application, so that everything runs together. And so we do expect that to wrap up in the coming months. So we're looking forward to launching that as well. There's going to be a few phases as we introduce this to the community. So keep an eye out for that, but likely it'll be targeted to our rescuers first. And so that we can work out all the kinks before our food donor partners and our recipient agencies can also take advantage of a mobile solution rather than just a kind of browser solution. So we're really excited about bothering everyone with notifications from the app and helping coordinate better with location settings and things like that we haven't been able to use or take advantage of with our current web application. So we do see that coming up in the short term.
Cool. I think that's pretty much most of the questions, and I'll leave it here with you.
Awesome.
Hold on, just some. Robert.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Hey, yeah, I'm sorry, man. I was trying to get a question in. I was trying to ask. So I was wondering, what are you guys gonna do about the volunteers and the lead rescuers? Are we gonna do like background checks on our volunteers and on our lead rescuers?
Yeah, currently so as the COVID situation has made more people a little bit more desperate of trying to find food for their families and themselves, we have noticed the uptick of people that take advantage of our systems to procure food. But we do want to continue to have our lead rescuers really be, as you are, Kwesi, the ones helping us communicate with us to ensure that we are putting in the procedures in place to protect our rescuers, our food donor partners, as well as our recipients, to ensure that the food gets to where it needs to be, that can actually make the most impact and be provided in the most safe way. So we do want to continue to have that happen. We do have a rigorous process for quizzes and checking the backgrounds of people in person right before they become lead rescuers, to ensure that they are representative of our organization. And so we'll continue that. We are in the process of thinking through how we can bolster that, as you mentioned, Kwesi. And we're looking forward to ideas from any one of you all as well, of how we can make that possible. But yeah, I think at this point, again, I kind of want to just close and really, thank you all, because we obviously are going through a difficult time in obviously not only the country, but as an organization, in terms of figuring out how we can navigate the uncertainties, at the same time being so clear in how much our mission is needed right now. And any way that you all can help and our community can continue to step up and rise to the occasion, is really valuable, and it really is what makes this community so strong. So again, I really appreciate your time, your effort, your blood, sweat, and tears out in the field and remotely during these times. And we're super excited about hitting this 5 million pounds of food. We know we have to do a lot more to help address the needs of our communities, and we're hoping to address them together with you all. So thank you so much again for joining, and we look forward to talking to you soon.